Let's get Thembisa Fakude now, the Senior Research Fellow at Africa-Asia Dialogues, who joins us now to further unpack this. So, Mr. Fakude, always a pleasure, sir. Well, these are news just in. Of course, you've just heard me speaking to our correspondent live in Tel Aviv. Hamas has accepted the deal from Trump, right? But Israel is still bombing Palestinians. So what is your take on these latest and current developments? Any hope eventually of a final resolution to this war this time around?
I'll only believe it when I see it actually happening, with the Palestinian prisoners released and hostages released. But till then, there's nothing really to believe. We have to take everything with a pinch of salt. Israel has continued with this bombardment, notwithstanding that Trump has announced this plan and Hamas has agreed to it. But the other thing, of course, is to what extent do we trust Benjamin Netanyahu that he's going to follow up or follow through with the agreement that's been reached between United States, Qatar, and Egypt. So until something substantial on the ground is seen to be happening, I'm not really very optimistic, because this is we've been here before so many times. So I'm not really optimistic that anything's going to happen anytime soon.
And that's a very interesting take there, Thembisa, because let's be honest, I was just talking to our correspondent on the conditions of this new proposal, because in essence, it has not been accepted unconditionally by Hamas. News reports indicate that they agreed, of course, to release some hostages, but seek in return changes to the US Gaza peace plan. So what now? Because according to our correspondent as well, Netanyahu seemed to be very surprised by this latest deal that was offered by Trump to Hamas.
Yes, Trump agreed to the deal without reverting to Benjamin Netanyahu, which is, of course, something that he has done in the past and continues to do, not only in Gaza, but also in Ukraine. That's the first point. But the other point is that you need to remember Netanyahu has been kicking the can down the road because he wants to protect his own career. If he does agree to this, of course, he's going to have a majority within the Knesset to carry this through. In other words, the vote will favor him because he's going to get the left-leaning parties supporting him. But he's also going to alienate his traditional allies within the Knesset, that is the ultra-right-wing parties that have been supporting him. So if he does go ahead with this, yes, it's going to go through, but the chances are there could be a snap election. If that election happens, he's not going to get support from his traditional allies from the right. He's therefore likely to lose his elections. And when he loses the elections, he is likely again to face music within Israeli courts and, of course, International Criminal Court. So he finds himself in a much more complicated position. One, he has to establish new relations and alliances with the new parties, but at the same time he has to be careful not to alienate his traditional right-leaning organizations.
And while we're still on Netanyahu there, I mean, Thembisa, I was just talking about how residents' concerns, I mean, as far as Jerusalem, are actually concerned that Netanyahu will actually sabotage the deal, because we see that there's definitely a game plan in favor for Israel. Should all peace efforts then fail? Yesterday, they had issued final warnings to citizens that were still in Gaza City, meaning that the full-scale operation was going to continue. But we've just heard word that, of course, they have since halted that advance on Gaza City since the announcement that Hamas was going to, albeit, accept parts of this peace deal by Trump.
Yeah, he's not serious. As I've said, he's fighting for his own political career. He doesn't really care much about peace. He's got an appetite of continuing killing the Palestinians and so that he can continue pleasing his ultra-right-wing alliances. So it serves him positive if he continues with this war, because he's likely to remain in power. But if he doesn't, if he agrees to this peace plan, it will mean that the peace plan is going to be supported by the left-leaning organization, and his right-leaning alliances are going to, of course, they've said they don't want this war to end. They want to take it all the way. In other words, they want to kill every Palestinian that's currently in Gaza and annex the West Bank. So they've taken a very clear position. So those traditional alliances that he has had and who has helped him so far to survive and continue with his political career, they're going to serve him divorce papers if he does agree to this 20-point plan by Donald Trump, which means, therefore, this is going to be supported by the other parties within the Knesset who are left-leaning. But once that happens, these parties are not going to support him for any re-election because there's certainly going to be a call for new elections. And as it stands, he's likely to lose because his traditional allies won't support him if he does indeed go ahead with this deal.
And it would be quite interesting to see, Thembisa, because we saw Mahmoud Abbas through his virtual contributions at the UNGA that was recently held, totally distancing Palestine from the activities of Hamas and calling for renewed solutions that actually considered Palestine as a separate state. So maybe let's talk about something just as a side piece there, Thembisa, as we conclude. Do you think the fact that there is no word on the release of the South African detainees in Gaza is taking place due to a specific reason? I mean, there's other citizens of other countries that are also being deported back to their countries. Why is there no word or move on the South African detainees, you think?
Well, for obvious reasons, Israel has got an axe to grind with South Africa. So they'll probably drag this on. But the fact that they've allowed others or deported others, it will make it very difficult for them to justify keeping South Africans behind because others have already been released and it's supposed to be under the same kind of rationale in terms of releasing all those that were part of the flotilla. So I think they're going to drag it a couple of more hours, but we are likely to have South Africans also released and sent back home.
And just maybe your final comment as well, Thembisa. I'm sure you saw the various protests, the pro-Palestinian protests that were taking place in and around the country yesterday, also calling and pushing for South Africa to sever all ties with Israel. Where do we stand, do you think, as, of course, a country when it comes to making this possible?
Well, South Africa is doing whatever it can at the moment to put pressure on Israel, better than many countries in the world, including some of the Arab countries. And they're taking it step at a time. We are currently on a back foot when it comes to our negotiations in the United States. Minister Pakistan and others just came back from the US negotiating not only AGOA, but also the reduction of the tariffs. And South Africa, I think, will continue doing the right thing when it comes to Israel. But of course, it has to be, do it in a way that it does not compromise the negotiations that are currently taking place between South Africa and the US, but at the same time also continuing putting pressure and making sure that we achieve justice. We have already started this. We are in the middle of it. We are leading it around the world. So we must not and shouldn't be seen to be renegating from what we've started. But at the same time, I think tact will be applied in terms of how we go about doing it.
Absolutely. President of Brazil also saying or announcing there at the UNGA that they will be supporting South Africa on its ICJ case against Israel. Thembisa, is always a great input there. That was Thembisa Fakude from the Africa-Asia Dialogues weighing in on the current developments in Israel and Gaza.